Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's the Damage, where I, your host, Truth Venson, no, I'm not, but Truth can't, yeah, Truth can't make it tonight. She is doing something special in her personal life, so I have taken upon myself to be the wonderful host this evening. Probably do a terrible job, and you'll all be begging for Truth to come back next week. Sorry, you're shit out of luck. Um, but uh, but we are going to be discussing what happened in last week's session. A lot went on. Let me try to do this Truth's way. She usually has this like beautifully like done and like knows exactly what she's going to say, but I'm going to try. Okay, so the Shields of Twilight found themselves stuck in kind of this like political intrigue of what's going on with the triumvirate as Orianna is being held in the depths of the dungeons of the Dragonstone Citadel. And through working with Cade, the group managed to secure a way for her to maybe clear her name somehow. But that would require them looking into potential corruption within the government. They talked about where they might go. They had a meeting with Lex and Fulton in regards to some of the avenues that they could look into, and decided that their first stop should be a person named Bardock that Lex had led them to. And upon learning about this individual, found out that there was a plot of child murder in the streets. Continuing down that line of investigation, they managed to meet up with Bardock, find that he was being framed, and then destroy his safe house before leaving to see where they might end up, knowing that the strangled vine was somehow connected to it all, and there was some place of interest around the Gilded Mountain Inn where they had been staying. I think that's it. So we'll talk about that and what the players got up to in that session. And then after that, we're going to talk about character choices and why the players and anyone who plays D&D chooses to make the characters that they do. So stick around, and remember, there will be links and things after the stream that you can donate to and see and learn about. So yeah, stick with us. I'm your host, Serenity, and this is What's the Damage? Sorry about that. Fixing cameras because Truth's not here, obviously. All right. So, welcome back. We have 3 wonderful guests today. We have Tick, who plays Sinric. We have Caleel, who plays Baltai. And we have the wonderful Orianna Jake. So, guys, last session, interesting one. Lots of choices made. Interesting choices. What's the damage?
About a bar / potential orphanage.
Well, that was
worth
just the
of damage?
Discord chat.
That was in the Discord,
wasn't-
yeah.
Yeah, that didn't happen in game.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet.
I mean, we're still as rash and impulsive as ever.
Apparently.
Hey, maybe we should check the back door. I'm gonna unlock the door.
We're agents of chaos.
It all worked out in the end, though. You managed to catch it.
Some of us are agents of chaos. Cough, cough, cough.
I
There's
mean,
the
Baltai
majority
managed
part.
to deceive the guards and not get
Yeah.
arrested.
Yeah. It might
That's
be
fair.
mostly me, agents of chaos, but there's some agents of chaos amongst us.
Yeah.
I just like we have one job. Don't do anything to get ourselves in more trouble than we already are.
And we haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
All right.
Think
all right.
positive.
So, did you think that it was going to be? I'll say this. I guess this is for Jake. Did you think that it was going to that Orianna was going to get out as quickly as she did? And did you think that it was going to be as simple?
That simple? No. I kind of had a feeling that you weren't just going to have me sidelined in what is essentially my arc of the campaign. So I kind of figured I would get out, but as something as simple as, hey, do this quest, not really. I thought like it was going to be something along the lines of she has to go through some sort of trial or, trial either in actual, law
Court.
trial or trial as in like, hey, you need to do this to prove that you are going to be loyal to us while we figure
That's kind of
everything
what you're doing, right? Is
Kind of.
I mean, this is not absolving you, right? Like they said, like
No.
if you do this, this
Yeah.
is potentially getting you
Yeah.
a stay of execution. It's not necessarily getting you off the hook, right?
I think it's not that simple. It's simple on the surface. I think it's not that simple.
I mean,
Well,
it's
simple
just
to
a
get
step.
out of
Right,
jail.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of trouble is
Right.
obviously
I think
not.
the task given to you is not as simple as it like looks on surface.
This is the
Oh, yeah.
equivalent of someone bonding out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened to
Yeah,
Orianna.
pretty much.
She
Yeah,
got
she's
bonded
More or
out of
less.
jail.
She's
More or
bonded,
less.
and then she if she does this well, then perhaps this gets her
will
like a
swing
gold
favor.
star on her
Yeah.
record. to,
Yeah,
like,
the
help her.
trial is still, gonna happen, even though you're, not physically in a cell.
So I guess this is like for Sinric and Baltaim, like what's their sort of take on all of this? Like you guys are now like Baltaim, Baltaim was originally coming to the city for his own sort of information to find out more about this group. And now you've kind of learned that there's something going on, perhaps that's entwined with what you're doing
Yeah.
for Orianna and this. But before that, how did he feel like kind of getting caught up in all of this kind of political nonsense that he didn't really want to have anything to do with? Versus wanting to go out for himself and find more information on, this group.
He's a little like he's not annoyed specifically at Orianna. He's just like more annoyed at like the whole like processes of like, well, we have to like arrest this person and like we need to go through this like sort of like trials and tribulations thing. He's more annoyed at like the process than Orianna herself, but he's just kind of like annoyed at like so close, but like there's like 2 more steps in between that, and so he's like right now he's a little bit more like staying a hand because he's like, okay, it seems like there's something going on between the two, but he's like, let's just get this through. Hopefully we can get like, let's get Orianna through so we can like not get as much like attention to us, so we can like start doing other things that we're actually here to be doing, like to be trying to do.
And how's Sinric feeling about all of this, especially given where he's from and where he's currently entrenched. I mean, like, I know that he's not been heavily tied there for a long time, but it's
matter.
still
Perceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how's he feeling? Like, this is probably not his number one place that he would like to be either.
No, not at all. I'm trying not to be cellmates with Orianna. That's my whole goal. Especially
you
for
might be
something
cellmates with Baltaim instead.
Yeah.
That's,
or the Herald.
You never know. I mean, he comes and goes.
Herald's
though,
always
so,
your cellmate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he might not be a bad person. No one ever stopped to ask.
Yeah, we didn't ask him.
Maybe.
Instead of Jesus is my co-pilot, the Herald is my cellmate.
But yeah, I mean that's my whole motivation right now is to not share a cell.
Stay the course.
Yeah. So I mean, tread carefully, do what we're supposed to, and just kind of understand the lay of the land. I mean,
so as you guys were starting your investigation and initially looked into we're given the options. So you were given kind of three options. Why did you choose Bardock as the first option?
Bardock seemed like the not the safer choice, but just the choice that gives us more background information to make a secondary choice. I think if left alone, Baltimore probably would just went for just trying to figure out the vine, to tangle vines, just to like.
Well, you guys were given the option of like because you didn't really have any information on the strangled vine, but you had Lex had given you could look into Bardock, you could look into Ephraim, or you could look into Iliad.
Right. Oh, Ephraim, because he would probably just look into Ephraim because he was the most tied to what we were looking for. But I think that the logic of the Baltimore took was like this gives us more cursory knowledge to make another choice later and with more information in our pockets.
I don't think Ephraim's a safe or good place to start looking into this.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm still not convinced that he even has anything to do with it aside from just being into the location. And even though the favor with Cade was to investigate the strangled vine and their kind of like affiliation with the government body, that doesn't necessarily maybe we start by trailing one of the top three. So I mean, Bardock seemed to be the obvious choice, so to speak, in the case of trying to find information.
For me, it was kind of similar to what they were saying, which is we have rushed into situations without information before, and it has not gone well for us. And we are walking a pretty small tightrope here in a trill right now. So for me, the logical choice was to just get any information we can first. And since Lex is like, oh yeah, Bardock, he's an information broker. He probably knows everything that's going on. Just seems like a good place to start. I'm still 50-50 on Ephraim being a red herring. Just something just like, oh yeah, this guy is here. This guy that we've heard about before. And whether or not he actually ends up being attached to it. But we'll see.
We'll see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the way Lex described him, if he's as smart as he was described as being, then he's definitely going to notice a bunch of idiots following him around. Sorry to call all of us idiots, but let's be real.
That's accurate.
I mean,
no,
that's accurate.
Right.
It's one of those where, I mean, he may actually be involved, but I get the feeling more he's involved for a selfish reason and not pulling the strings. They're being used as a means to an end, if anything, or he's just doing something that furthers his own game that puts him, in sketchy positions, similar to that particular group, the Vine. So I still don't. Yeah, I'm fairly confident in my judgment that I don't think he's like a ringleader directly involved.
So I guess, how did you guys feel when you walked into that bar and learned that Bardock was potentially a child murderer?
That definitely put a damper on the plans, yeah.
What was the initial sort of process there? There was some pretty strong emotions from Quinn and Perry a little bit from finding that out, and even now after the fact, you're not 100% sure it's not him. You're
Right.
kind of, but like
reasonably sure.
But yeah. They're still very kind of gung ho and rushing forward to find who's done it, basically.
I think immediately I was just like curious of like, well, how do you know this is the case? Because like, unless you've seen this, like, or like saw this happening, like, how do you know, like, for sure, if like with 100% certainty, like this is like, no one's sure of 100% of anything usually, and like it was just like, no, like he's a child murderer, like you're just like, go with it. I was like, it's a little fishy. And also just like I don't see Lex like coordinating with someone that has this sort of like track record of like, would it be like a potential of like this is some like, low things. She's like in the underbelly of things, but she doesn't cross ball team as someone that works with like the lowest of the low for like unless it's absolutely necessary, and like she wouldn't just like give us this name. It sounded like she was like, oh, this is a contact, like we're like kind of like talk, but like it's been a while. Like it's not just because I've been busy. So it's like not because I didn't like them or something like that. It was just like I've been busy, so like talk to this person. So that's the type of vibe I got from Lex. So I don't think she would like coordinate with someone that was like this despicable. So it's like I was a little cautious just hearing that at first.
Lex is very much that type of character to me who resides in the underbellies of society, not because she's inherently like a bad person or likes to do bad things, but more to find the people who are doing the terrible things and stop them. Like nothing we've encountered with Lex would suggest that she, like you said, would ally herself with somebody who kills children. So hearing that this person that Lex vouches for has been accused, and knowing that he's an information broker who could have information that we're looking for on a super secret organization, for me, like the logical step was, okay, well, I would set up an information broker if he had potentially damning information on me.
That makes sense. But we were also just given a piece of information to not trust everything we hear just moments before discovering, Bardock was a child killer or, accusations thereof. So, I mean, it seems that some of our group is already kind of moved on from that warning and jumping to, a point of acting out of emotion, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we're in a place where that type of behavior could cause us more trouble than help.
Yeah.
So
also, you took that like that Lex's warning of don't take everything like you hear. He took that as like, okay, this is not a trustworthy place. Nothing anything here that I learn or like say or do doesn't particularly matter. It doesn't like people are like not trustworthy. And in Ball Team, Lex is many things to Ball Team, but she has not like steered them wrong or lied to them. So he's like, she is trustful enough that when she says something, like heed it, because she's not like she's not one to like walk around words, and so she's trying to tell you something like directly. So he's like, all right, listen to what she's saying and like make sure you're like listening out and like, does that pass the smell test? No, that doesn't seem right. Okay, I'm not gonna do what you're talking about.
So what you're saying is, if Lex had told us to go to the Grove, she would have told us that there's a dragon there.
Probably.
Maybe, yeah. She probably like stay away from the fucking dragon.
But that's probably why she had nothing to do with it, because she couldn't.
And that's why I was in my feelings about that whole outcome with Aaron, was because that was, I still feel some kind of way about that because we were set up to fail.
Sure.
I mean, from my background, that's how I look at that situation.
It's a perspective. It's sure a perspective.
Right.
Yep.
And a valid one.
It's just in this current situation, yes, we're hearing a lot of stuff to rile up emotions, and that, resonates with people. And yeah, the way I'm looking at it is, what better way to discredit the person with information against you than to discredit him? Have the people turn against his reputation. And I mean, what better way to do that than to hit him where, it hurts the most?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's a lot of people with children in the city.
Yep.
So after you met with him and kind of got the information that he had, what was your initial sort of gut reaction to like what you're trying to piece together?
I think. I think we're like it showed in the episode. We're kind of split on like which direction we want to take. I think it's mainly Quinn and Baltimore that's like, let's keep like going down this rabbit hole, keep turning up dirt, and we'll find something. You'll find something eventually if you're looking hard enough. And people that don't want you to find them and know that you know things want to get rid of you, they'll find you, more or less. So I think that's the route Baltimore and Quinn were like more so like, let's keep going, like kicking up hornets nests, see what we unturn, and we'll find something. We don't know if it was going to be helpful to what we're trying to look for. It might help us to a next step to something else. But that's more the like logic he's going off of. And I understand like of like, wait, let's see what other information we gain, like the Orianna seems Perry route. Like, let's regroup at Orianna's home, see what we can learn elsewise before we just start going turning up stuff. But like, that's just like the character itself. Is like, we know something, we know a general location of where things are going to be happening or where things are rumored to be happening. Let's see if we can like, infiltrate, listen out to hear something, and we might be able to get out and for like not like having any sort of big conflict, but that might just be another lane avenue for us to get information from. So that's just where the character is at.
Which is why I wanted to go to the bar that night and pretend to have some type of celebration as a scouting mission. But my whole goal was just to literally get us out of the building, because here's this paranoid person saying, hey, they're on to me. They probably know, I'm here now that y'all found me. So I'm going to go. And that was my cue in my head to be like, okay, maybe we should not stay here and have an argument.
I know you were talking for a long time.
Yeah, and that's where I came up with the thought process where it's like, okay, let's just go to Orianna's parents' house because it's literally right there. We can continue this discussion there, not here.
But that's kind of. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go on.
And that's kind of what Orianna's point was with this. Like, if we go back to the bar and we make a plan at the bar, we're literally planning on the doorstep of our enemy. That seems a little just unnecessary risks. Like, yeah, theoretically, if they are as widespread and basically the CIA of a Trill, then yeah, they could theoretically reach us anywhere. But let's maybe not go to like the front steps of Langley and just be like, oh yeah, we're here, we're not doing anything weird or suspicious. So Orianna just wants to cement like, hey, what's our plan for this and how are we going to approach this before we get to the front steps of our enemy.
So I guess that's like another question is like, you got this information from Bardock. He told you that there's like an entrance close behind the Gilded Mountain to a place where they exchange information or something like that. Like, how sure of his information are you guys? Is this idea of like snooping around the bar to see how truthful it is that what Quinn and Baltaim were trying to do? Because it just like, it's interesting that they didn't just want to go find this entrance versus like scope out the bar itself.
Well,
that's sleep at the inn.
That's I think that's where Baltaim and Quinn differ too, because I think, as Baltaim said, he's like, we could see if Freya's like in the bar, and if he's in the bar, he might not be down in the entrance. We could kind of avoid that conflict with like the person that we should probably avoid at this moment. And when they're not there, snoop in, see what's going on down there, check out the information and see if it's accurate, and then we could plan the next step there. So Baltimore want to go there, gain a little bit of information, see if we could find like where like check Ephraim's movements from like him just being in the bar, not necessarily following him, but it's sort of like, oh, he's at the bar this time, and the same time this time, and the same time this time. Like see if we can get a pattern out of him, and then check our information source that we got, instead of just going like, because Baltimore doesn't want to just go and like start just blasting up the place, because like that's like Orianna said, that's kind of a risky thing. He wants to do like the risky choice, but like try to do it a smart way in a sense.
I got it. So why did Baltaim feel the need to blast the interior of the
I understand this logic. Yeah, I really do, but
it was twofold. It was Bardock already said that, like, was already paranoid, telling like, oh, like we need to, like, I need to go. There are people who are watching us, and Baltaim knew that there's people tracking us as well. We have a tail, so it's more twofold of trying to do something, a little bit of chaoticness that could be passed off as something as from either side, even if like, because they might be working together, we don't know. Like they're part of the government in some fashion, so they might be linked together. So either our tail would think that we found this child murderer and we had a conflict, and so that will pass off as they're trying to do right. They might just be a little, rambunctious doing it. Or the people who are watching Bardock might be like, oh, these guys are idiots. They really believe the story we've disseminated out, and they try to attack him and got nothing from him. He's trying to carry off the trail of like, we don't know as much as we think we know, by just doing something like sort of, it wasn't random. It was chaotic, but it wasn't like random. He thought about it, but he's like, try to throw them off a bit just to see if it works, to try. Because that might give us a little bit more time. They might find out still regardless, but they might give us a little bit more time to make our rounds around the city.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess like last question for me, why was there this heavy sort of disagreement about whether to stay at Orianna's place, Orianna's house, versus the inn that is basically the nest of or the lion's den? Why was there this like mass hesitation of, no, we don't want to stay there, it's just as bad as staying in the Gilded Mountain?
I have no idea why there was such a torn decision, because the entrance was close to, it wasn't inside the tavern. We already have an established presence at the tavern. So in my head, if we deviate from that routine because we learned something, I mean, that's a tell in itself. Now, if we deviate from our routine to go to Orianna's house, that is a plausible, thing. I mean, that's not such a bad deal. But through dumb luck, we've set ourselves up with, oh, this is our room, and we have a reason to be here. And that's kind of my thing, is I don't want to go looking for an entrance to the sewer right now, but I do want to see who makes a regular out of this bar. And the fact that we know that Ephraim frequents this place, that gives us an opportunity to at least put eyes on him as well, to see if he's just coming in to have a good time and blow off some steam, or if he's conducting some type of business. I mean, it's one of those where if we don't go back to the inn for a good reason, we paint a target on ourselves based on what we just did.
Yeah, my disagreement was more so of Baltaim trying to emote some sort of empathy. He wouldn't want to put his family in that sort of danger of this secretive group that's we've already know that can disrepute a person and pass off any sort of information they want to disseminate. And now he knows they work for the government, so they can just sort of kind of like, oh, here's a story, write it off. All right, let's move on, everyone. He's like, oh, I wouldn't want to put my family through that. Orianna, think about this before you like potentially endanger your family, because he's like, I wouldn't want to do this to my family. I wouldn't take that risk with my family, and that's one of the things he wouldn't risk. So he's like trying to give her the like, there's other ways they can spin them killing us all. If they're gonna kill us, they're gonna kill us no matter what, no matter who we're hiding with or who we're at. So it's like, if we're by ourselves, we might be dead, but your parents won't be involved in this. So if they could spin this in a way that a girl charged with treason comes back home to just finish,
murder suicide.
Murder suicide. Just want to finish everyone else.
Hires people to murder her family, and then we're all stuck in it.
Yeah, and so it's like, he was just like, I wouldn't take this risk with my family. I'm trying to be a friend to you by saying I wouldn't take this risk with my family. Think about this before you take this risk with your family. If you're fine with that, okay. I'm just saying I would rather do the more risky thing than put my family in that sort of risk.
Fair enough.
And sometimes, the safer alternative is to continue on as you were doing, as if you didn't have the information. So if we didn't meet Bardock, we would literally be going back to that tavern tonight to sleep, eat dinner, go to bed, and wake up in the morning and continue on the next day. Yeah. Sometimes keeping up appearances are the best thing.
True, but if they're smart enough to realize that we've talked to him, then they would know that we've talked to him, right? It wouldn't be a question of, oh, well, we could just go back and pretend like we didn't do it. They would still know.
Right.
And if they're going to make a move, a tavern out of the way where they could theoretically, get us in our sleep or whatever, that seems a lot more easy for them to set up, right? Like, you don't need to plan that out. You don't need to have a story in place and things like that. Whereas Orianna's parents, one of them's a high-ranking member in the military, which is one of the most respected positions. Like, he's not going to be an easy man to just get rid of and explain away. Orianna's not, like, to make it clear, Orianna's not saying, hey, let's spend the rest of the time we're in a trail with my parents. We'll be perfectly safe there. Orianna just wants to have a plan, an idea when we're going back to the Gilded Mountain. Whereas right now, the plan being presented to her is, hey, we know it's there. Let's just go in. Like, it's a shame Chad's not here today to defend himself.
I think there's a bit of missing information too. Yeah. Orianna never told any of you she has an anklet bracelet around her foot that she's being watched and monitored on. So if you think that she's going to get away with murdering her parents with that on her leg, probably not going to plausibly work out unless whoever put it on her leg is also working with, which is potential that they could also be corrupt and be okay with Orianna being framed for. But there's the potential that, like, Cade is one of the people monitoring that, and maybe he's corrupt too. But all I'm saying is she also has not really divulged that. I mean, Cade told you she's being watched, but you assume that she's being watched in the same way that you guys are. Yeah. Instead, she's actually, you did not. And it was covered by your boot. So,
and we're kind of missing information that, like, Orianna's. I think, she has told us he's a general, but, like, we don't know necessarily, like...
Yeah, she told you that her mother's a well-known opera, like, famous opera singer, plus
so we're not, like,
apparently magic user that she hasn't really known
aware
about.
Of, like, what their capabilities are. Exactly. So, like, they might be more capable than we're giving them credit for, too, but it's just, like, from this, the general information we have is, like, okay, that's a danger putting presence on your family.
No, I get it.
I think there's now, like, there's disagreement between the three of us. I think the polar opposites was definitely, like, Chad and Jake of, like, because even, like, there's, like, a range.
Yeah, Quinn is very emotional right now based on this child murder.
Just
plot.
Wants to find person that killed children.
Wants to apparently murder the child murderer.
Yeah.
So
Quinn is more so like, let's go in. Like, Baltimore's like, let's go in. Let's but do Rennet
Yeah. Quinn
like
wants to
recon,
divide
like,
smite
try-
the bastard. Yeah.
Yeah, Quinn's like, let's go in, attack everyone, kill everyone.
Quinn-
So.
Well, I don't think he
Quinn is
he
very
wasn't.
Quinn
I mean,
right
that's don't say that because
Right.
he wasn't
Yeah.
go in and just attack everyone in the bar. But he's like he
But
wants to find
attack
like
the-
he
yeah,
has
the
this
proper,
like
yeah.
need now to find this
Yeah.
this criminal whoever's done this and exact justice on them basically. For
There's even like some
for the lives
disagreements
lost.
between the people that agree in a certain sense too.
Yeah, I see the difference. Like Baltame is very much more like I need to find out more information because he sees that there's like a tie to his
Right.
potentially his family and what's
Mhm.
going on there. And so he's following what Quinn's doing, but he's not as like steadfast in the like
Right.
I need to find this
That's
criminal
her-
and I
yeah.
need to like exact justice on this person. His is more of like a pragmatic I need more information and this is the way to get it. And Cindric
Right.
is also like, okay, we're trying to balance our investigation and keeping up appearances. And then I think like Orianna is, lived here, and she knows who her parents are, and so she's trying to use her knowledge of having lived here for X number of years.
to keep her
Whether
friends safe.
whether you believe in like she's so naive that she really doesn't know anything that's going on, or at least has some knowledge. That's up to you guys. And then I think Perry's kind of stuck. Perry and Campion are kind of just like stuck. Being
I don't
like,
know, yeah.
But
we don't know what's
Perry's trying to be that emotionally supportive best friend to Orianna
Yeah.
right now, it seems.
Yeah, she
I-
wants her
I
to at least
will-
go see her family for whatever reason, like to at least have that moment with her family. But I don't think she's right now. She's kind of straddling. Both her and Campion are kind of straddling the line of like, we don't really care where we go, like as long
Right.
as someone deems it the right direction.
I will say, I mean, yeah, I know you made the comment that, your parents are harder to, get to as far as what's going on, but consider, all of us going into your house and the type of, people in our group and the reputations that your
Oh,
father
yeah, I didn't
has.
think about that.
I mean, it'll be super easy to discredit
Yeah.
a
I
high
didn't think about
general.
That was Cindric, yeah. That is a good point.
If
I
they're as
mean-
smart as if this organization is embedded and as smart as they think they are,
If
they
if
know
they were if they were that intent on it, they would have done it already.
no,
And
because
Oreo-
I was never seen at your house. But if I was seen inside your house, think about it.
okay. But part of the issue is that you're tied to me. So the traitor daughter who comes home and is working to clear her name or whatever brings her friends, including, a member from Veladon, to her house. One night there, that's not like, oh, your father's harboring a Sunshield. Is that the name?
It's
From
just a
Shield City.
Veladonian.
Yeah.
I mean, his
Okay.
his last name is Brightkeep. Brightkeep.
But-
Right.
It's one of those where, literally that's all it will take is just to be seen
Maybe.
around that area
Yeah.
for a rumor to start. I mean, look at Bardock, for example. He didn't necessarily kill any children, but, he's taken the rap for it.
True, but her father may also not even be in the city right now. He is a high general in a society that's pretty militaristic.
Again, I mean, just to keep up appearances, that may not matter. Just the fact that, if this
It's fair. You guys will
organization
have to
starts spreading
decide.
rumors-
You guys will have to decide what you. I mean, you're close to Oriana's home. You'll have to decide who
Yep.
goes in, if you all go in, or if Oriana just meets with her family and the rest of you go somewhere else. That's next.
I
Section.
mean, yep. And I do have something I want to do because we have a couple people that might potentially have information that we haven't talked to yet.
potentially.
So,
Sure.
yep.
So I'll open it up to you guys. Is there any questions you want to ask?
I mean, not as far as the session, but as far as like our topic moving forward about character building.
Okay. All right.
So-
Then I'm just leaving it open. Do either of you want to ask anything?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. What's Asmodeus' relationship to Ileana?
That remains to be seen. It's an interesting one for sure. It is.
Not gonna fly.
It is an interesting one for sure.
I want to know if we're going to meet the Goat Man again, because if we're going to meet the Goat Man again, I'm going to suggest we turn him back into a goat.
Maybe he did what he said he would do,
Yep.
And
Yeah,
he
I
didn't
mean-
specifically tell you had to go there. He just said, if you go there, I have an anchor point.
He offered
I mean-
to take us somewhere else, or to
Oh,
try
so
and
he
get
knows
us outside
nothing.
the
He
city.
knows nothing about Orianna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, had she not been in the state that you'd been in, you probably would have been brought forward, but you probably just would have been like, something's going on. This is weird. We're gonna watch you a little bit because you came into the tower of a mage. But since she knew it was from Walad, she was like, okay, I know this. Like, just like they would have made you go about your business, watched you probably for a couple of days, and like left you to do your own business. Unfortunately, you had a Veladonian in your party and Orianna, who was wanted for high treason. So that made things a little different.
At least I wasn't wanted for high treason.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Just wanted for
I
potentially
don't
being
know
a spy.
Yeah, I don't know if a mortal enemy could be a convicted of high treason.
He could
But at
maybe
the
be
same
convicted of
token-
high treason in his own country.
Might be,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, when we
Well,
get to
I
Central
mean-
City, don't forget to tell them.
Oh,
You know,
But,
that's if it even matters at this point, based on everything that's gone on.
you don't know, maybe. All right, okay. So if there's nothing else, then I guess we can move on to the topic, which is character creation and why you make the characters you did. I guess let's just talk about the characters you made for this game, like going down the line. So Tick, what was the thought process behind Cynric and why?
So the thought process there was a little bit twofold. The first thought process going on was, this is the first time I'm playing in front of a camera, so I want a class that has as little to manage as possible. So Barbarian. And I say that knowing how complicated it can get preparing
Yeah.
spells and the decisions that are sometimes daunting because of that. So yes, I deliberately made that choice so I could focus more on the game aspect as opposed to trying to spend an hour
Mechanics.
trying to stock spells and then be in the situation where I accidentally heard something. So while I'm still stocking spells, I'm just going to, add that in. I didn't want to be in that predicament because I don't, stock spells and choose to stock spells in under 30 seconds. And that's just, I do nothing quick personally. So yeah, it was one of those where I wanted as little to manage. And then with the Barbarian, I didn't want to play someone that was just like always angry, smashy, punchy. I mean, so I opted to go a route of someone who, as you probably found out, is not in touch really with too much any emotions at this point. And that's kind of.
I guess my question is, why Zealot Barb? Because he's not really shown himself to be zealous at all towards any deity.
Part of that is I really wanted to be, play a zealot because I thought it would be fun. The other part of that going story-wise is I'm still, struggling as a character on if I even want to follow a deity or be, kind of like in charge of my own and, like follow my own path and kind of, be my own, like, as far as like show my zealotry to my own choosing my own path, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. I got it.
As opposed to relying on a deity. And that's kind of been my struggle even with trying to understand Chord at this point going forward, is I'm just at a point where I don't know if that's based on everything I've seen, if the gods are worth putting stock in, so to speak. And I know that sounds horrible, but
that's fair.
Based on what I've seen, I mean, it's might be better off to put stock in my own efforts and what I can do on my own.
Fair enough. All right, Caleel.
More so the same as Cynric. I picked Warlock because I just was like,
because that's always what you pick.
Like yeah,
every
exactly.
Game, you're just a Warlock. It's the only class
warlock.
you choose.
Yep,
I'm very familiar with the Warlock class, so I was like, this would be easy for me to play on screen, and like I don't have to pick spells. I mean, I pick them at every level, but I don't have to like prep spells and all that stuff. And it's it's fairly straightforward. I know I'm Hexblade, so it's not as similar as just doing Eldritch Blast all the time, but I take sword swipes at everything mostly. And I have a few spells that change up things a little bit here and there, but it's more so me focusing on what's being said in the game and like not really worrying about the mechanics of like my class, because like I already know what's going to happen with my class going forward. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it was just I wanted to just do Warlock, just different than like what like other people play Warlock use typically. Like there's other different types of Warlocks, but I want to like that more I guess less edgy vibe of Warlock, but very like counter Warlock, counter like stigma, I guess. I think I just took that thought process and just like kind of did that for the whole like character of like this whole duality like theme.
So why the worship of Avandra?
I based Baltimore a little bit off of an X-Men character, Gambit, which is my favorite X-Men. So he's more about luck and like favor and fortune. So it's like I just want to like something. I went sort of with that like that theme and process, and was like Avandra is the goddess of luck and fortune in this world. So I was like I thought it's also pretty weird for a Warlock to like worship another god at the same time he's like being a Warlock. So it just kind of fit that like duality of like this different sides of the same coin sort of narrative and like theme.
Okay. Cool.
See, now I want you to buy a deck of cards and character, and that's how you use Eldritch Blast.
He gambits it, yeah. So Orianna, what was the choice behind her?
Well, I was the last one to kind of join the group, actually, and I think it was a little unplanned at first. But when I was told who was all playing, the only thing we were really lacking was a kind of supportive arcane caster, and Bard just kind of seemed like a good option. And I'd been toying around with this idea of a anti-Bard, or at least, against type Bard, which I've probably mentioned a few times on the show. Of a Bard who isn't just like, oh, you have a pulse, let's have sex. So I went with this very sort of from a noble-ish background, but very studious, very book smart kind of Bard who gets propositioned a little bit too often for her liking and taste. Not so much that she's like a prude necessarily, just like she's not interested in that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the main idea, and then I just sort of fleshed out the character from there. Okay, well, a Bard like that, what kind of background would they have? What kind of story would they have leading up to becoming an adventurer?
Why the idea of her learning her craft from a prisoner? And that being what drives her from her home, because I think that's pretty interesting. Like that's not generally a story that you hear. Like most people wouldn't be like, yeah, I got to know this prisoner and I bought into what he told me, and I'm gonna go out in the world and like leave everything I've ever known behind. I think it's like I'm not making fun of it. I think it's actually a very interesting story to tell, and so I'm curious how you came about that as like part of the character.
It is very much an interesting thing, and for me, when I told you to go ham with it, my thoughts ended at, oh yeah, this was just some like guy speaking out against the government, and that was kind of his crime, and that was it. But apparently that's not the whole story. But yeah, like when I originally imagined Damien, he was just some guy from like, I don't know, the front lines of battle who saw the horrors of Zia and all that kind of stuff. And it just seemed like a good idea for this character who really would have no reason to leave. I mean, she's a part of the nobility. Her dad's a general. Her mom is, essentially a celebrity. And what purpose would she have to just leave her home? Like, that doesn't exist. So by having this prisoner who told her, not quite all the true story about what her country had been doing was a good way for her to just want to sort of abandon everything and leave it. And, it wasn't like she just talked to Damien once and that was it. This was all stuff leading up to it.
And when she eventually, weeks, yeah.
Yeah. And when Cade eventually, when she heard from her mother that Cade was basically going to try to marry her, that was kind of the, oh shit, I gotta leave, I gotta get out of here. Damien, what do I do? Bring me a flute.
All right. Do you have any questions on this topic for each other?
I have one question, and I'll answer it as best you can, or if you can't, that's fine. But are there any like I don't know how to word this correctly, I guess, like traits or like secret things about your character that you, or like just like defects of your character that hasn't been shown yet, you kind of like want to show it, or has it been like dropped for your character just since it's not been shown since this whole entire campaign? And this go to you too, Serenity. It's like any character that we've seen that you like a trait or like just something underlying that like you've had on the character but just never had the opportunity to like highlight and like just the screen time you've had.
Well, I mean, as far as Cynric goes, I mean, he does have, training essentially as being, a fighter, a soldier. But to be honest, I don't even know if that's going to come up as far as, the direction the character's going. Because at this point, he's not really interested in entertaining the roots that he had, even after, knowing the perceptions of how everyone thought of specific people growing up versus traveling with you guys now, and seeing, the rest of the world and how things are just different compared to there. I'm not even sure that he would even tap into some of that history as far as like fighting skills and trends and stuff like that, and rather just, embrace that more primal fighting style and continue on a different route rather than trying to become who he was.
I don't think there's like anything super secret about Orianna that hasn't come up, at least. I mean, her personality is mostly being explored live in the show, both with her past now and a lot of her flaws coming back to haunt her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you probably would have said if this was like a few episodes back, you'd want to explore what's going on with River or like you want to know more, but now you're kind of getting that shown.
Yeah.
What about you?
I say this now because I mean I'm not sure because we're in a trail, so it could be potentially like it's been brought up time before. I think like very early on that like while he's not actually originally from Agaria, he's from a trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if his Atrillian heritage will come up at all in this time we're in a trail. But I'm interested to see if that does. I think we're just probably too not in the right place. Most likely we're not like near his hometown. So I'm interested to see if that ever comes into play. Knowing Serenity, it probably will. I probably just like she's like, yep, don't worry about it. You're like 5 sessions from like seeing this coming up.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's something I think it's been brought up before. Like I've said it before and like way early on, but it's just never like been like a question, like, or I've never like gone in depth and like, oh, like what part of a trail, like acts particularly about it. So we've never like conversated about it.
Yeah. For me, I mean, yes, there's tons. But like I never want to steer you guys. I don't force any exposition or exploration that doesn't specifically tie into like the overarching story and where you guys are going. So while there are nuances to like every character I introduce, and literally every character, I'm not going to give any of that unless you guys actively engage with it. So if I introduce an NPC and all you interact with them for is like a specific piece of information or to get where you next need to go, then that's what I'm going to give you. If you want to dig further and you wish to get to know that character, I will open up who they are based on your interactions with them. So yes, like there are 1,000 characters that you've interacted with that I've been waiting to see how you interact with them and what you say to them and what you do when you're in their presence or not. But that it is what it is. And you've received tastes of certain hidden things from certain characters that either you haven't yet explored, you maybe don't find it, like maybe the group just doesn't find interesting, or you have other things on your minds and you're like busy doing other stuff, or your characters have their own baggage or whatever, so it doesn't get explored. But there is definitely plenty in all places, in all facets. So.
I think most recently Lex has been probably that person so far, because
you're getting a lot of potentials from her if you want to, but that's up to you guys as players to want to dig, if you and how far you get and like how your interactions go. But like that's on you guys to kind of like unfold the storybook and see what pictures pop up. I don't force any of that on you just because I'm like, oh, I love this character and I really want them to be, the story is mainly on you guys. And so it's how you, unpack the world and interact with it, not how I want you to.
I mean, right now there's 3 characters I really want to, have like a one-on-one with, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Cade, number 1.
Okay.
Because I don't feel he's lying when he talks about his beliefs, but I don't agree with them. So I want to have that conversation, hey, why do you believe, this, as far as like a united front with everyone? Because in my head, even going back to the thought process, is that could be a very beneficial piece of information to have coming up soon if, more of these shackles continue to get broken. Because, I mean, if we can find a way to unite more than one kingdom, we could potentially have more allies in this fight. So it's not a bad, philosophy to look at. The other one would be Aaron, not because of the whole dragon incident.
Are you sure?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really isn't. But
that seems to burn Cineric's butt.
It really does. But I mean, that's that soldier background. But as far as what her abilities are and where she comes from, because it's almost
where she comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's contradictive in nature, and it's something that I've never really said anything about. But to understand a little bit about that, I mean, why is she not hated?
Right.
So the other one that I really want to talk to is the vampire guy from the Three Kingdoms.
From the Free Kingdoms.
Yeah. And that's just because I liked his character. That's all. Nothing really. Yeah, I just like his character.
Vicar.
Yeah. Yes. It was just a it's
not
a character
a vampire,
that was,
but
well, I'm saying that because that's how he was.
He seemed like one.
Portrayed. Yeah. But he was portrayed as a character that was, confident and charismatic to the point to get what he wants done, but also to the point where he doesn't really care what anyone thinks. And if you stand in his way, he's just going to bat you away like the fly you are.
Very good. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a fun character.
Yeah. We'll see if you, I mean, you may have chances with all 3 of them. It depends on where you go and what y'all do.
And like I said, that's me personally, not the character. My Cineric has no there's nothing I can glean from talking to that guy at this point. But the other 2 would be
What about anyone else? Does anyone else have questions?
There is one character I'm looking forward to having a discussion with, a potentially very long discussion with, and that is Cade. Because he is definitely not what Orianna believed he was or was told he was. He seems a very nice person, and she feels she owes him more than what you can apologize for. Because he could totally have just been like, "Hey, fuck you! You kind of ruined everything for me." But instead, he's actively trying to not necessarily help, but assist in giving her a chance to prove that, she was just a naive, stupid little kid.
Also, even trust
And now
Cade.
she.
Caleel does not trust Cade. I was just this weird sitting in my stomach. I just like, I don't know.
think he's a bad guy.
I don't think he's a bad guy either.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
It's that perception of what's good and bad.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. Something's like off. I'm just like, But Baltimore trusts him though.
Are there any characters that you want to get to know? Like, if given the chance that you would sit down and Baltimore would have a talk with.
I think like not doing business, Baltimore and Lex would be a fun like interaction, just like hanging out. I think that'd just be like a fun interaction. I think Baltimore is kind of interested in learning more about Erin, just because she seems Erin and Fulton. They seem so far just the people he's met over the Let's Turn, they seem like the more on the like positive side. Mm-hmm. Although he hasn't like had too much interaction with the other members either, so he can't I can't fully judge the other members yet. But seem like they're more on the positive side of like sort of the plucky attitude side of the of Lux Eterna. So I think he probably want to interact with them probably a little bit more as well.
There's one more character that player wants to talk and sit down with, and that's Freya.
She's over in Avonhurst, so maybe you'll get a chance to chat with her at some point.
Little hard to talk to
when
her.
when she leaves, if she leaves. But yeah, she's an interesting character. Are there any other questions anyone has for anyone else?
More so for you. I mean, we've created a character. Some of us have created 2 characters for this campaign, but you've created a lot of like NPCs we've interacted with that I assume are high level. Have you ever, rolled the stats for some of these NPCs and been like, oh, that's absolute garbage. So, yeah, this is a level 20 character, but if they go up against another level 20, they're going to get like destroyed. Had that type of like reaction to a character.
No, generally. So the interesting thing about like level 20 is, I mean, if I'm making a like playable character and a non-monster like stat block, like someone that I think that you might fight alongside versus fighting against, that might have to be used as an NPC to help you like in a battle, and I have to make them like a PC. I will roll stats the same way that you guys roll stats. The interesting thing about level 20 is, as long as I roll the stats and I do the same thing that I do with you guys, which is like you roll the 46, drop the lowest, and then the total has to be over 70, you generally get pretty decent stats. And by level 20, you have enough ASIs and stuff like that to bolster like the stats that you need to. So generally by level 20, you're generally doing pretty well for yourself if they're a level 20. Not all of the characters that I make are level 20. Like I've had characters that you've interacted with that were like lower level, like level 8, 12, like, at the beginning of the game, like 4. So
I was throwing out level 20 as an example, but
yeah. So it just depends. But generally they're around the same power level as you guys are, like with the stat wise. On the creature side, if I create like a homebrew monster or an NPC that I feel would be an adversary to you guys, or that you might try to fight outright, you can't make them as a PC, because PC versus PC is very unbalanced, and you guys will just destroy a PC character. They'll have too little health, they won't have enough like stuff to do, and they will just lose to you. So I have to create like a legendary creature or something like that. And then alongside that, if I create a level 20 character and give them like legendary actions and legendary resistances, they're like super strong. So it's like you have to figure out how to balance that. But then I create like a creature and I give it a CR level, and then that I generally you don't roll stats for that. You just kind of like think of like, okay, a monster or creature at this level has to have like these stats based on like what they're facing and how the battle is going to go and stuff like that. So yes, I stat out pretty much any important character that I feel you guys may interact with both friendly and adversarially, because I never know if at a later point in the game or at that moment that you meet them, you might either attack them or befriend them to the point where later on or during that period they might assist you. And so then I have to have them ready. So yes, it's a lot of work, but I like it. Cool.
So no disappointment with anything you've created yet. That was kind of the question.
No disappointment. No.
Okay.
No. So far, everything has worked out. And if something has a dump stat, it just makes it a lot more fun because you can lean into like RPing for that dump stat. You know, I find that some of the most interesting characters have like a negative stat and have to deal with it. If you're good at everything, if you have like 16s to 18s and everything, you're just like a god, and it's like, okay, well, you're just a god, like you just great at everything. So what?
It's like someone in the Sunday game.
Go ahead, be a Mary Sue, like that's great, but like that's not what I want. And even with some of the characters that have really good stats, I still try to play them as they have like their flaws and stuff like that, because again, it's super not fun to play like an all 18 character that like just can't die and can't do anything wrong and like has amazing rolls all the time. And that's just, I don't know. I don't find that fun. Like I find there's fun in failure too. Like in failure, you can get a lot of information as well in certain respects. So or really cool moments. So
I think that's how I kind of do ball team too, because I don't have any negative scores technically, but like I don't always think.
You play him as like an idiot, even though he's got a fairly average intelligence. Like I think he's got like a 10 intelligence.
Yeah, he's got 10. He's 10. He's 10.
So he's like average intelligence. He's like any one of us, basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
Well, like
speak for
like
yourself.
He won't think the first, like that's his flaws, like impulse. He was like, let's do something right now, sort of thing. So it was like it makes him more stupid than he actually is.
Yeah.
Or like Campion with the 22 intelligence, and you know the intelligence is there. It's just not
It's the floor.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing it more of like a high intelligence, low charisma. Even though he doesn't have very super low charisma, but he's playing more of like a low charisma of like he just doesn't understand the social cues of interacting with various people in various ways in various environments. So yeah. Cool. Well, we're over time. But thank you all for coming on this version of What's the Damage. We appreciate you all joining us. Don't forget to check out Roll for Damage this Friday at 9, where we continue on and figure out what this crazy group does in the city of intrigue and political scandal. Don't forget that next Tuesday, Truth will be back to host another episode of What's the Damage and dig into what happens this coming session. Thank you to Lady Meows for our logo and Sunbird for our music, intro and break music. And stay tuned afterwards for links and places you can donate. Don't forget to check out our YouTube and our Patreon and our Spreadshirt and whatever for all sorts of merch and interesting stuff. We hope you enjoyed and have a great night.
And join our Discord and see if our logo looks like a chocolate dice.
There you go. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Peace.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.